committee is going to offer our blessing.
I'll come up here somewhere. All right, let's have our blessing. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to gather together and hear the life and faith messages from Richard, Jim, and Don. Let the words be an inspiration in our faith journeys and a platform for us to become better disciples. Bless this food, may it strengthen us in mind, body, and spirit to do those things pleasing to you. In God's name we pray. Amen.
So this is our final meeting wisdom series. When we began this program, reaching out to Richard, Jim Campbell. Jim couldn't be with us today. He's celebrating his 50th anniversary. And then Don, when I talked to them, they were, why me? Or they were kind of, they didn't say no, but they weren't all that anxious. So I thought I needed to check a few people out pertaining to Don Lewis. And I talked to this one person, that church person, and I asked this fellow, what comes to your mind when I mention Don Lewis' name? Without a hesitation, faithful to the church. And I think that's a short statement, but I think that's a really incredibly terrific trait, to be faithful to Jesus' church. And then I talked to a colleague of his in the medical world and wanted to know a little bit about their comments about things about relationship with God. And they said that Don's one of the founding members of the Women's Clinic here in town. And he was also instrumental in the women's health care and surgery as it expanded back in the early days. And then finally, I talked to one of Don's patients. Don had a few patients. So, without hesitation, this lady said, he always made me feel like I was his favorite, best patient. And I think that's a terrific quality for a doctor. So, anyway, we all know Don. We're glad to have him and look forward to his comments.
I'll talk up so maybe Lloyd can hear me and you older ones can just turn your hearing aids off. You get bored with it. I was very honored to have been asked to do this evening time because I thought that meant that they realized I was getting up in years and that I was full of wisdom. Well, I had most of the wind taken out of my sails recently when I read that wisdom does not always come with age. Sometimes age comes all by itself. So I thought, well, if that's so, and I thought, well, maybe they think that I'm like Old Man River. You must know something, don't say nothing. Well, I grew up in, well, let me say this first. I'm 88 years old this year. When Clint Eastwood was 88 years old, he was playing golf one day with Toby Keith, country music. Toby said, well, Clint, you said you're 88 years old, so you're getting ready to kind of kick back and take life easy. And Eastwood said, I start filming in 2 weeks. Toby said, man, keep such a pace at your age? Eastwood said, I get up every morning and I look out the window and I say, don't let the old man in. So Toby went straight back and wrote words and music for that and recorded it. You pick it up on YouTube. So Clint is 93 years old now, and so that's working for him. So I recently started trying it, and I'll let you know what happens. You will know. I grew up in deep South Arkansas, a town called Camden. A lot of states have a Camden. My Camden was much like Mayberry. No one ever had to say, are you sure you locked the door? Because most of the doors didn't have locks. The doors and the windows were open all summer long because the only air conditioning in town was the movie theater and the department store. We were members, well, I should say first, my father worked in a grocery store owned by my Uncle Ed. And among other things, he delivered groceries on a bicycle with what we call a helper on the rear end. Some kind of little motor that would kind of help you going up hills, but you still had to pedal. He made $14.50 a week. My Uncle Ed, who owned the store, was the only Republican I ever knew. He hated Roosevelt, and everyone else I knew loved Roosevelt. I went to Daddy one time and I said, Daddy, Uncle Ed said he doesn't like that man, Roosevelt. Daddy said, oh, don't pay any attention to him, he's a Republican. Uncle Ed didn't buy into the daylight savings time, so he ran his grocery store on standard time year round. We belonged to, we didn't say members of, we always said we belonged. First Baptist Church, which was not hard to shell, but pretty close. Preacher was Brother Tom Harris. All of us young people were scared to death of him. Every sermon worked its way around at some point to fear of hell, fire, and damnation. Fear of hell, fire, and damnation, plus the fear of Brother Harris might have kept me out of a lot of trouble. My mother was a driving force in our family when it came to church, religion. If somebody said, gosh darn it, you know what she was thinking in her mind, they were really wanting to say, she wouldn't hear it to me. If she caught my brother or me in a cuss word, we were sent out to cut our own switch. My daddy was, he never complained. And he was in the church every time the doors opened, but he's a little more laid back. Patty and I were down there on a visit one time, and we wound up making us about 5 minutes late for church. We got in, got seated, and Patty turned to my dad and said, I'm so sorry we have made us late. Daddy said, don't worry about it, we'll get plenty. Washita College was a little small Baptist college in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, not far from Camden. And growing up, I just always assumed that if I went to college, that's where I'd go. But I got a wild hair to go to the University of Arkansas, way up in the mountains of northwest Arkansas. A lot of people, including most of the people in our church, thought that was Sin City because it was taught that the drinking of alcohol was up there. Well, my parents, I was first one on either side of the family to go to college, and so my folks, parents, mother and daddy stayed out of it pretty much, except that my mother said, now Donald Ray, a lot of us call that double money down there, South Arkansas. She said, Donald Ray, when you leave home, if you ever think you have to leave the Baptist church, please join the Presbyterian church. Do not join the Methodist church. I never knew what she had against the Methodists. But of course, I got up to the University of Arkansas and fell in love with a Methodist girl. Think about this if you can in this day and age. University of Arkansas was sectarian, of course, publicly supported, the only university in the state. All other schools were still colleges back then. But every spring we had a religious emphasis week. And classes were canceled, and ministers were invited to come from all around the state. Schedule was sent out, and you chose the classes that looked interesting to you. Oh, Patty and I chose one class led by a young Presbyterian minister from Little Rock. He was extremely dynamic, impressive, wonderful personality, dry sense of humor. Everything about him appealed to us. So after we were married and moved to Little Rock for me to go to med school, we went straight out and joined his church. Both our children were Christian there. So when we came to Jackson, it was Presbyterian we were going to be. We were over here one weekend looking at houses, and decided to stay over and go to church. So we were going up to the door of the church. We were met by this man in the best looking tan camel hair top coat I had ever seen. He greeted us, asked us questions about who we were and what we were doing, and welcomed us. Well, less than a week after we got home, we got this nice letter saying what a pleasure it had been to meet us, and how happy he was that we were coming to Jackson at the First Presbyterian Church. And when we got to town, if there was ever anything he could do to help us get settled in, please let him know. Signed, Ridley Alexander. We got to town, of course, we didn't even look at another bank. We went straight to Ridley's bank, got our mortgage, and signed up for all our banking, and learned that Ridley Alexander was the best PR man they ever had. We joined a Sunday school class led by Hewitt Tomlin. I was on call every other night and every other day, and didn't always make it, but I came in one Sunday late and sat down in the back. The topic that day was the virgin birth. So Hewitt looked back there and he said, well, I see the new young obstetrician who's just come to town has come in. Dr. Lewis, as a person who delivers babies, what is your opinion of the possibility of a virgin being able to have a baby? Well, I was stunned. I had no idea how the conversation had been going before I got there. I felt like the answer that I gave had the potential to either make or break my entire career. So finally I said, well, I believe for a true virgin to be able to have a baby would have to be a miracle. And since I believe in miracles, I believe in a virgin birth. So I slipped by. Patty volunteered to lead a Sunday teenagers. Tough job. Years later, we were talking about the church, and I said, you know, I really admire you for taking on that Sunday school class for those kids, because that's a tough job. I'm sure that you had a very positive, made a very positive impression. She said, well, I'm not sure about the Richards boys. Well, the Richardson boys turned out fine, and several members of the Richardson family are playing a vital role in our church now. We came in 1966, and of course we've been through a lot of ministers over that period of time. I was asked to be on a search committee with Charles Mayo as the chairman one year. As you know, in the Presbyterian Church, you can't bring a prospective minister to your home church. You have to go visit them. And so we made several trips and had some interesting experiences. We went to Paducah, Kentucky to talk to a minister. The church in Paducah is patterned after the same architecture as Rhodes College. It's a gorgeous church. The minister was very nice, very accommodating, good personality, everything about him. And in our conversations with him, he said one thing that he felt like being a minister was that you had to be able to maintain discipline. And he said, one thing that I do is I get up every morning and read a chapter in the Bible in Greek. So we got to church, had a very nice message, but it was Communion Sunday. And when it came time for communion, no one had selected a server. So things became a bit chaotic until they could get organized and get things going. So coming back home, we talked about a lot of positive features of it, but we wondered if his intellectualism had been at the expense of his administrative skills. Then we went to Columbia, Tennessee. Again, I had a very wonderful experience with the minister and his wife, and coming back, agreed that we certainly wanted to follow up on that. But he called Charles and within a couple of weeks and said he really would like to come to Jackson, but we should know if he comes, he'll be coming without his wife, because she was refusing to leave Columbia. Well, we finally settled on a young man from a church in Louisiana. Wonderful personality, nice looking, wonderful sermons, good administrator, and immediately became very popular with everyone in the church. But over time, it became clear that he had a roving eye for women, and split the church really almost in half. Part of the people liked him so much they thought we should give him another chance. The rest wanted him out of there now. Well, he wound up leaving us. I really don't remember whether he resigned or whether he retired. But I do know that neither Charles nor I was ever asked to be on the Presbyterian Church has another requirement. Between ministers, you have to have an interim for 2 years. I truly believe that the Lord led us to choose or ask Dr. Henry Motley to be our interim. Dr. Mobley lived in Louisville, Kentucky. He was had an emeritus position with the seminary there. He was known and respected throughout the Presbyterian Church nationwide. He came to our church with a very calm, reasoned presence, and in less than 2 years put us back together, stronger than ever. So we're finishing up now a year of celebration of 200 years of service to this community. I've always been very glad to say, when asked, I belong to First Presbyterian Church. Our church has been active in the community, it's widely respected. Nurtured my family for 57 years. Both of my children were married there. My wife's memorial service was there. Some of you men in this room today are going to have to play a vital role in the future of this church. From what I've seen, I think we're in good hands. So may God continue to bless First Presbyterian Church, and may God bless America. Thank you.
So grateful to Don, terrific message. You can tell it from the heart. I picked up a book a couple of weeks ago with no intention of it having anything to do with what we've been celebrating here the last 3 months. So I read the foreword of this book, and it was written by R.C. Sproul. R.C. died about 2 years ago, but he, in my opinion, one of the great Reformed Presbyterians in the country. He's an unbelievable minister. And I came upon these words in his foreword. I am a teacher. I'm in the knowledge business. The Bible warns us that knowledge puffs us up, where love builds up. 1 Corinthians 8:1. Yet, at the same time, the Bible exhorts us to seek knowledge. Such knowledge, however, is not to be sought as an end in itself. My Bible reads, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Proverbs 4:7. The goal of wisdom, the goal of knowledge is wisdom. The goal of wisdom is to lead a life that is pleasing to God. And I think that really encapsulates all of what we've been about here the last few months. That's a sentence that really drives us, because we're all sinners. But I just thought that was so well put about it, in that this is a wisdom series to live a life that is pleasing to God. So thanks everybody for coming. Great time, great fellowship. wonderful speakers. Richard is here with us. Of course, Jim is celebrating his 50th anniversary. And then we thank Don as well. Well, one final thing. The discipleship committee, we want to embark on a Bible study that the middle part of October. And it's a book. Steve's going to be passing out some things midsummer. It's written by Patrick Morley, Christian Man. It's a conversation about the 10 issues men say matter most. What we'd like to do is that we'd like to split this 10 chapters. We want to have, beginning at the middle part of October, we want to do 5 weeks of study of the first 5 chapters. And that'll get us through to the week before Thanksgiving. And then the second or third week of January, we want to pick up the second part, 6 through 10, for 5 weeks, which will take us through toward the end of February. So it's a 10-part series. We're splitting it up 5 times, and it's very topical subjects. In other words, it's not a story that you have to follow each week. There are all these different contents, varied topics. But it's interesting because this Patrick Morley's done a series of it in talking to men. It's about a conversation, the 10 issues that men say matter most in their lives. So certainly please consider to be a part of it. We've got a really good foundation in so far this year in the study. Back in the winter, February through the latter part of April, we had a 8-week series of studying the Gospels, and we've got a base of there was about 16 of us involved. We're going to really do one-on-one connection with the 16 that were in that study, and then we're going to be having some marketing material to encourage all men to kind of sign up. One of the things we would probably do is when we get the numbers together, we would do it similar to the one we had in the winter. Divide up into groups of 5 or 6 people, and these groups can meet during the week for breakfast time or lunch or in the late afternoon, early evening. That's the way it happened the last time. We had 3 different groups that met during the week, but all of them met at different times. So anyway, just wanted to get that out to you. And again, thanks so much for everybody being here. We're also really, really happy that John's with us. We're praying for him in a mighty, mighty way. He's really on the right track, getting great medical care, and we're just happy to have him here. John, thanks for coming.
Sure. Glad to be here. I've watched you all on the videos the past couple of times, and there's been a lot of wisdom shared in this room, and Don continued it today. So I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate you coming today and for big leaders in our church.
Thank you all for coming.